Hey everybody, and welcome back to Mainstream Monday here on Horror Film Lovers. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I'm here with
John Ward.
John Ward is here to talk about the first Saw movie, which is the third time I've seen the movie. Or
Oh,
wait, second time? Something like that. It's like
I
I
think you said that I asked you if you'd seen him, and you just said what, like you'd only seen the first one. So I assumed this
yeah,
was your second one, your second time.
I think it's my second time. I want to say because I'd seen it. I think I tried watching it once and got bored and then re-watched it years later and was like, "Oh, okay, this is a little better now." And it sounds terrible, but like I don't know, if a movie doesn't grip me in the first like 10 minutes, which this did now, or whatever.
I don't know how
Now
it
it is
didn't back then. I mean, but okay.
uh, I have a short attention span if something's,
Apparently, did you at least watch the short?
yes, I did. The 10 minute short.
Okay,
So we'll
good.
talk
Okay,
about
so
that
so that
first.
that
Like,
that held your interest. It's only 10 minutes,
yes, that held
if
my
that.
interest.
Okay.
Um, it was cool. Like a lot of the stuff that they eventually did for the movie. So it was always sort of a promo to sort of pilot to sort of get, the movie financed. So they just wanted to show that they, kind of show that they can make this movie. And it's just basically one big scene, the
Well, it's
bear trap,
It's
the
the
reverse,
Amanda scene.
yeah, it's the
It's the
reverse bear
whole
trap.
Amanda scene.
Yeah. And so, but instead of Amanda, they have Lee Winnell as this character David. And David was not, later what I found out was that it was used as a way to show that Lee could play a character, like in the movie. It's kind of basically that was the whole thing, is they wanted to make sure that James Wan was going to be directing and Lee was going to be acting in it. And that they had apparently deals with DreamWorks and some other people that were interested, but they said, he wanted to go with this other company that was, I guess, just starting. They hadn't even uh like Twisted Pictures started with this movie, you know. And they raised $700,000 based on that short film, which I think cost them like a couple grand, it wasn't that much, you know to shoot that pilot short. So I was like, we talked about this in a bunch of our Mainstream Monday episodes, but a way for filmmakers out there to get their their name out there is to shoot a short. It really helps.
Well, and then look what they did later on. For the most part, James Wan has looked at shorts
Right.
and has turned them into features. I I will say with the short, um, I thought it was a. I've already seen it a bunch of times, but I thought it was about smoking, and it's not. I guess it's just about him saying life's not important. I guess that's because he's smoking, and she's like, you can't smoke in here, and he's like, well, life is, what does it matter, type of thing. And then it's about him
Well,
choosing life, but because I had seen it for a while, and then I saw that he was smoking while talking to the cop who we barely see talking, who can't act,
yeah,
and
he was
and
not the greatest. You can see
which
why
is
they did bring
why.
him back. you know.
Yeah, I think that's why we don't see him a lot either,
Well,
is
he's
that he's not.
also Australian, and their
Well, they're
accents are very,
Australian.
yeah, they're all their, they didn't do like an American, accent on this. They made it, I mean, it was Australian. Um, but you know, it was so funny. You're right, because they didn't bring that guy back as the cop. Obviously, that cop was always going to be a bigger name, and it became Danny Glover,
Right.
Uh,
And for people who don't know the short, it starts with Lee at the police station. It's the whole Amanda thing, and he's like, "Tell me from the beginning." And then he's said, "I just got off work," and he's an orderly, and
He's a
he cleans
janitor.
up. Yeah. Well, I think he says like a glorified janitor, and then I think it's orderly is brought up
Okay.
or something like that. And he goes, yeah, I clean up after sick people. And he's getting off work, and he's putting like his headset on, and he lights a cigarette, and he walks outside and basically walks into a nurse who's like, you can't smoke in here. and
Right.
and he's like, I forget the exact wording that
He
he
said
says.
life is meaningless or something like
Life
something
is Yeah, life is meaningless. And then the
like because
elevator
I
is
couldn't
not.
understand what he said, and I looked it up in the captions on YouTube, and it was not what he said. Like whatever they put up there was completely not what he said. So I was trying to understand because that him low was low, like what he said was low, and so I think it said
I
like
think you're right. I think it's like,
something
yeah, life is.
something is something like that. I don't think it was
Yeah,
exactly meaningless,
life
but
is.
something, you
Yeah,
know.
and then the elevator doesn't work, and then he gets hit in the head, which
Right.
I thought was kind of funny, and because it's so not Saw just to be hit
Yeah.
in the head, and he ends up with the reverse bear trap on him, and everything is there. The TV is there, and Billy is there, and he's strapped to the chair, and it's exactly Amanda. And Billy comes on and says, you got the dead guy, and you got to get the key out of him to unlock it. And in both the film and the short, my God, that is the longest minute ever. I
Mm,
mean, that's like the wall going down in Raiders of the Lost Ark at the very beginning, where Indy's trying to climb up from when he jumps, and he just barely, and he's trying to climb up, and you see the wall going down, and he's trying to climb him up, and then you see the wall going down, wall's climbing up, and the wall's still right here every time, and then eventually it makes it down. And it's like the slowest moving wall ever. And I thought this was the same thing. It's just like, wow, this is. So I'm guessing in between both Amanda and him trying to get the key, we are literally only seeing what we're seeing.
right.
Like, it stops when it cuts back to him at the police station. Like, it
Right.
doesn't continue, type of thing. Because it's like, normally you would say, well, I got up out of my chair, and then you'd see the chair, then to cut back to the police station, and then you'd be like, well, what happened after that? Oh, well, I was driving down the street. Well, you don't see him grab his keys, go out the front door, unlock the car, get in it. That time is missing. And I just thought it was, wow, this is the longest 1 minute ever. But he
Mm.
gets out of he kills the guy. The guy is paralyzed from
They
drugs.
probably shouldn't have done 1 minute, maybe 3 minutes. You got 3 minutes. That's still like a scary amount of, like because what if you can't get it out of 3 minutes, or whatever. Anyway, it didn't matter. It was 1 minute. He had to get it.
Yeah, and it's
It's the
fine.
same scene.
And
It's the same scene where
yeah,
the guy is there. He has to get
he
cut
gets
it
the
out.
key, he
Yeah,
does the thing, it falls off, he yells, Billy rolls out, and it's back to the police station. But he doesn't say, because the cop is like, do you appreciate life now? And he doesn't say yes or no. He doesn't do anything.
yeah,
It just kind of
and
cuts
yeah, yeah, and
where Amanda says that he saved her.
yeah. And I kind of like that though because, for that short at least, that character may not have appreciated anything, period, and I don't know because it's so funny because like yeah, right, like you're saying he's still smoking at the police station. So obviously, even though he had said before like life is meaningless or whatever, that like it didn't it still was the same way. Like he even though he survived this thing, he's still gonna treat life the same way in a way.
Yeah, we didn't. I guess it's up in the air, and maybe the cop could have pushed him a pack of cigarettes, and he pushed it away, or something. But of course, we're going off of an entire franchise now, and just looking at the short. So
Right.
who overall, who really knows?
And
and
I mean, it was a different thing. Like it was basically there just to get funding for the movie. Like, it wasn't made to be like a standalone short film that, um, but in that short film, some of the scenes that they have, like all the scenes pretty much from that stuff, including the part where he's like, doing the head thing and it's
yeah, the
going like
style
frantic.
is there.
His style is there
The
and
Saw style.
that showed in that short film so that later he could do it. James Wan said that this was supposed to be like basically his Hitchcock type style kind of movie, and I can see that. Like obviously, if Hitchcock were making movies
I
today,
I don't at all see that. I see
if
MTV, but
if Hitchcock were making movies today, he probably would be more MTV and more edgy because that's just what he would have to adapt. He couldn't
I'm gonna
make those.
disagree with that. I'm gonna disagree. I can't picture what Hitchcock would even do today, especially if you
Have
look
you
at
seen
Frenzy.
Frenzy? Yeah,
Yeah.
Frenzy is like fucking graphic and scary, and I mean
Well,
it's
because Hitchcock was a pervert. I mean
yeah.
that's we all know that. He was a kind of a sexual deviant in a way, but he's just a great director. And it's so Frenzy kind of brought a lot of that out. But it's no, I don't see Hitchcock in this at all. I mean, if anything, I would see much more like video directing or commercial directing
Also,
or you
in
know.
in the feature, I saw a lot of Silence of the Lambs like influence and other thrillers. I saw a lot of that in there. Now, maybe not in the style like you're saying with the MTV style of shooting and cutting pretty quickly, which I like. And obviously Edgar Wright is very much in that vein. He shoots everything quickly and edits, has that style. Which I would love to see James Wan and Edgar Wright work on something together, like a horror film together. Wouldn't that be crazy? Like James Wan produced something that, 'cause if you've seen like Last Night in Soho, I mean, it's got a similar.
I haven't seen that yet. I just know his stuff just feels very comic booky. So it's I don't know who I would compare this to or compare it to somebody. I don't know who I would.
Maybe maybe it's just all
So
James Wan. Like, that's cool. If you think James Wan is just being James Wan, like
I mean to a degree. I mean, I guess I could see some Silence of the Lambs in there. Sure, I could see Seven.
mhm.
I could see any of those more gritty, kind of cop noir slasher type movies
With
that
also great, they have great shots in those too, just like he's very good. There's a one point in the feature Saw where they kind of come down. And it just feels like he actually, even though it's coming down into the room that they're in, it still feels like such a big place, even though it's obviously small, you know?
oh, he does a great job directing, because I believe it's just a warehouse in LA.
Yeah.
So it's, and it's, I might as well get this out of the way now since we're talking about that stuff. I mean, the budget was incredibly tiny.
It was seven
So,
hundred thousand dollars.
um,
That's what it said on Wikipedia.
now I have on Wikipedia, 1 million to 1.2 million
Mm,
is its
look
budget.
look at the production, and it says with a $700,000 production.
I'm looking at budget. That's what I always look at. So that's what I will continue to look at. It says 1 million to 1.2 million, which is what I've always heard, is that the film basically was $1 million.
Maybe they got that with extra funding after the movie got because okay, 1 million to 1.2 million it says in the budget, but if you look at the production, it said when they started production on it, it was only $700,000. $700,000. Um yeah, let's see. With a shooting budget of 700,000, Saul began principal photography. So, I mean, that's what it says. I don't know. Like, I guess
Well,
later,
why? I
maybe
mean,
when
why go off of that instead of just what it
well, that's
says?
the
I mean,
shooting budget. So maybe Lionsgate put more money into it to put it into theaters and do all that stuff, marketing and other stuff. So maybe
oh, I
whatever.
go off of the same thing every single time, and so
Okay.
it
I'm
says I have always heard $1 million for this movie. 1 million. That's it.
once and that's how much it could be. I don't know. Yeah, only the people who made it know. All right. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It was a lot smaller than, a lot of these other movies, and even, like they had this budget and they were able to make something pretty cool. Like, it wasn't just the warehouse, it wasn't just two guys trapped in a thing together too. Like, how I don't like that typically. It's mostly that, yes, but then we get out and we see the stuff with the bear trap scene. We see the reverse bear trap scene. We see with
Right.
Amanda. We see the kidnappings. We see all that other stuff. So it takes a way out of that thing, which I like, you know, because we get into this bigger world, where there's this guy out
Well,
there doing this stuff.
yeah, I don't think it was meant to be a one location movie, but that was I'm assuming that was part of the reason why they picked it up is that a good portion of it would be, shot in this bathroom that they could just create. Because if you even look at the ending of the short, the camera goes down and we see the eye, and it's a bathroom. It's like a crappy looking bathroom. So maybe that was always the intention was if they made a feature, it would always be in this bathroom.
Hmm. I'm sure they
So
had because they had the script like already written, the feature script already written before they did the short. The short was just like, okay, let's take just one scene out of there and, make a short film out of it, which is very smart, and that once again goes to filmmakers who want to have their films financed. Uh, Write a really good script, take a short like little scene from it that's, going to be your calling card and go show it to people. And if you might make them reach the right person, you might not, Nowadays it's crowdfunding, which really sucks because, the whole idea of filmmaking a lot of times back in the day was investors. You get real money with investors, you can't make $1 million with crowdfunding unless you're like already famous.
no, I think crowdfunding is more for low budget people. I don't
Yeah.
think it's I don't think you could probably make something like Saw, but you would have to use all like practical sets. You wouldn't be able to build anything, so you would have to find a shitty bathroom that was in like a high school or something like the gym, and you would have to film in the director's house for the wife and daughter stuff, and then you could just find a parking garage to shoot in, and so I mean for something like this, yeah, part two, no, you definitely could not. Uh, um, that's when you would definitely need more people, but if you wanted to just go really low budget with it and not have Danny Glover and not have Monica
Gary
Potter and
Elwes.
stuff. Yeah, and just have somebody from the drama department at the local college. Then yeah, you could probably get it done. So, but I didn't mention that the film, whatever its budget is, it's low on either end. Its box office was 103.9 million. So yeah, it made its money
Even
back no matter what
yeah,
its
even
budget
with
was.
the most budget that you said, the $1 million budget, that's still like, 100 and how much, which was it, what, 30, 130 something? When
Oh no, lower. 103.9.
$103, 103.9. So it'd be 102, $1 million profit, even with, like that's 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 a profit right there, that's a winner. And that's why they did do sequels and, whatnot.
Well, and it didn't take very long either, because I think I saw that The short was like 2003, and then this was 2004. So it like
Mhm.
took no time for this to, to take off. The one thing that I really do respect about these guys is there is a producer, Mark Hoffman. You probably saw him in the credits. He's the guy who discovered the short and brought it to Lionsgate and said, we need to make this. And sadly, in between parts 2 and 3, he died of cancer and he has a wife and
Mhm.
kid. So what they did was they left his name in the credits. So even on Saw 10, his name is in the credits. So his family makes money off of every Saw movie that comes out. And then you'll see later on that there is Detective Hoffman, who is named after him.
Aw.
So
They named
what
after
come
after he died? They named it
yeah,
after him? Nice.
yeah, because Hoffman came in. I think he might have even been created, because of the guy. But he was. I think he comes in part 4, and I could be off on that. But yeah, 4. Yeah, that sounds right. But I've never heard of a studio doing that. Normally if somebody dies, it just says in memory of, and that's it.
Or like dedicated to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's which sucks because this is what I have. And I got it because it's all of them up through final chapter on Blu-ray. And
Which
I'm like,
one's
oh,
that?
okay.
7 or 8?
Oh, final chapter is 7.
So I had that and I can't find it, right? So I just ordered the Blu-ray for Saw 1 through 8. So
Okay.
I will have Saw 1 through 8, we'll have 2 through 8. And I have already for 4K, I already have Jigsaw. So I've got that already. That's the
Do you
only.
have Spiral?
Wait, which one's Jigsaw? Is that 8?
Jigsaw would be 8, 9 would be Spiral, and then
Okay, so
10
I
is
don't
Saw 10.
have Jigsaw, I have Spiral. And then I have, because I have number 9, whatever number 9 was. And then I need number 10, and I'll buy that too before we do the thing. But yeah, I have I swear to God, I had the parts 1 through 7. I had that exact one. And then it's nowhere to be found. So I think either someone borrowed it without asking me, which happens in my family a lot, or the one of my friends borrowed it and I forgot and I didn't write it down because I literally can't find it. So I'm
Well,
driving me
hopefully what
crazy.
you just ordered will be better because I had them all on until final chapter, I think it is. Final chapter you could only get in 3D on Blu-ray. So I had purchased it on Blu-ray and I had everything else on DVD. And there were always 1 to 2 discs. And they had like a buttload of special features. And that's where I learned a lot of this stuff. And they had audio commentaries and looks at the traps and the characters. This has nothing. Nothing. And they're all unrated, which is nice, but they're like, come on, guys, really? Saw 1 and 2 on one disc, and then saw 3, 4, and 5 on the second disc, and then saw 6 and 7 on disc 3. There's no trailers, there's no audio commentary, there's nothing. They look and sound fine, because they're Blu-ray, but it's like, wow, talk about nothing. And maybe that's because it's, two
How
movies
many
on one
discs? How
disc.
many discs do you have?
3.
So this comes with 9 discs.
So they're individual.
I'm guessing. Plus, I guess if there's 9 discs, then that must mean there's an extra like special features disc or something, you know?
So maybe they
Um,
put, yeah, I'm guessing you have the actual DVD or the actual Blu-rays. These, when I ordered this, I thought that's what I was getting.
right.
And because I bought it when it came out, I'm like, oh shit, I could finally get them all. And then I stupidly sold my DVDs, which I should have kept because they also had like slip jackets, like cool slip jackets, like you're seeing like a Jigsaw on like a one of those like metal morgue tables, and then you pull it
Right.
up and there's like a different picture below it, like a more violent picture. They had stuff like that, or like a see-through package. And
Nice.
I have, why did I get rid of them?
I like
Um,
those too. So I was at the restore today as I showed you, and they did have Saw 1 on DVD, and I was almost gonna buy it, but I was like, I have this at the house. I have this at the studio somewhere. Like I have all the Saw movies up to I think six or seven, six, I think, because I think seven didn't come out when I was collecting those DVDs, you know. And so I got, one through six or whatever at the studio somewhere. And then and a lot of them are in like really cool like looking stuff. I just just didn't grab that one, and then I had to pay $4 on YouTube to rent, Saw 1. I could have done Roku, the Roku thing, but I was like, I don't want to watch fucking commercials and shit, I was like, I'll just pay $4 and for my convenience, and everything.
right.
And I was happy, but then I was like, I'm gonna order this now because hopefully by the time we're doing the next one, I'll be able to get it, or whatever.
I mean,
I'll already
they're
have it.
definitely worth owning. I mean, and it's, even though my favorite franchise is Chucky, all things Chucky, this is probably the one I've seen the most, and that's why we can only talk about what happens in the first film, because three will tell you what happens in one, two, and then like four goes back to one, and then two will tell you, so it's all over. If somebody had the patience to just make one long Saw movie, that would be awesome. But I did watch something on YouTube where somebody goes, "Oh, well, that's unrealistic that somebody would just be on the floor for that long pretending to be unconscious." Well, jump to movie four, we find out what happened of the whole thing with part one.
Okay.
So it's that's, and then of course in between parts one and two, Saw 10 takes place. And even though it doesn't really, it works fine, but it doesn't work at the same time because they never bring it up in any of the
Yeah.
other movies. But it works fine. Um, so
I
it's
actually
hard.
thought about that too. It's like, wait, is he how did he not sneeze or cough
You'll find
or
out.
yeah, yeah, I'll find out. But I'm just saying, like that was the first thought in my head there, like when I was like, because I remembered that he gets up, that's the big twist at the end, which I thought was always kind of cool, like this M. Night kind of twist, oh my God, it's it's he's been there the whole time, oh my
it
God.
I guess when you really look at it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, if it's a standalone movie, it doesn't make any sense. Once you figure out, because when they show the stuff with Amanda, there's stuff that happens before.
Hmm.
So it's like what we're seeing is not the first. So it's there's reasons to why he's on the floor. There's reasons to why the things with Amanda are happening. There's reasons, but you have to go two or three
Yeah,
movies down the
you have
road.
to watch all of them
Yeah, and
to fully get
it's,
it.
and I know some people don't like that as much. That and I love it, which is probably why I've seen these so many times more than any other series, is because of the jumping. And some of the stuff doesn't make sense. Like they do a little bit of retconning. Um and but like I did watch stuff this time, like I always do when we do this stuff. I really watched it. So I wanted to know, and I kept going back. Could Dr. whatever his name is,
Gordon.
Gordon, thank you, Dr. Gordon, see what the dead guy on the floor looked like? Like where was his face aimed at? And I believe his face is aimed at Adam. Because why wouldn't Dr. Gordon, and granted he sees a lot of people, but he is just literally standing right across from his bed.
Well, didn't he take like some like stuff off his face and stuff too?
It was a wound, a bullet wound.
Oh, okay. So I
Because
thought he
there's
had taken stuff off so he looked different, too, or
no, I think it
something.
was just a bullet wound that he pulls off. But his head is, I believe, turned towards Adam, so then Dr. Gordon can't see him.
Right.
But then I thought, well, I don't know, he's a doctor. He probably sees like 20 people a day. Why would he? I mean, maybe he doesn't even
Right.
remember him. Um, there's also coming up a bunch of fan theories. Some of them end up being true because the studio follows the fan theories a little bit, which is kind of cool. Um, but it's also the dates. Like I sent you that message that on the flip phone that Dr. Gordon gets on how it says
Hmm.
9/10/2021.
The day
I'm sorry,
before
I'm sorry, 2001, 2021.
2001, the day before 9/11, which is
Yeah, and if that like okay, so did nobody adjust the time? Because I looked at I did read what you sent me, but some of their reasonings were, well, the reason the phone might say that is because there's no reception.
no, I think literally what had happened, and I think this was, and I asked, yeah, as I showed you, I asked James Wan if he, I sent him a message asking him about this. I'm probably not gonna get a word back, or whatever. But I thought, if I get a word back, we'll talk about it in Saul 2, or Saul 3, or whatever. Whenever he finally gets back to me about it, if he does, most likely his answer is just gonna be. I like my idea is that it was just an accident. That like when they grabbed the phone, they put the phone out. The phone wasn't supposed to be working except for outgoing calls or whatever. And the whole idea with the phone was, I guess, that it was an older phone, right? Like it was not, it wasn't like this new phone that they got. So I think when you get a phone, it just says whatever day and stuff, like it doesn't have the time or whatever, the right time, because it just said 12 o'clock, right? So I don't think it was moving at all because it said,
But
uh,
why that date?
because I think that's the date that it like got manufactured, or put out. It just stayed there. You have to change the time, I think. That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay,
That
then why didn't a production assistant change the time?
because they did not notice it, or they thought nobody else would notice it.
Because
Like
it does take place in 2004. I couldn't
right.
find it. I did scan through it. One of the people said that there is a bag, like an evidence bag that says 2004, even
Yeah.
though it was shot like 2003 and type of thing.
Well,
And
they probably knew it was coming out in 2004, so
yeah,
they
so it makes
probably
sense.
put a lot of these things so that it would, because like when I write scripts, and stuff, and I'm thinking, okay, it's gonna come out in 2025, or whatever. I'll make it so it takes place in 2025, so it's present day, right? Or whatever at the present day at
Well,
the
if you
time.
notice, you don't ever. I couldn't find where it said 2004, but somebody on YouTube said there is an evidence bag that says 2004. The only evidence bags I saw were flipped upside down,
So you can really
so
see,
you can't see the date or
right,
whatever it is, which would be the smart thing to do.
right.
But okay, so it's supposed to take place in 2004. That's fine. I just don't. I'm not buying the thing with the flip phone. I just
I'm just saying it was just a goof. That would be my.
I think it's I think it's intentional. I think they purposely.
I mean, they could because it is a specific date like that. It's the day before 9/11. So like it's a very specific date. Um, so there might be something where maybe they were planning that in future sequels that you would find out that that date meant something, you know, like that day was the
9/11's
day.
never brought up. It's never brought
No,
up.
no, 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 no. I know. I'm saying
Uh,
9/10, the day before then. Maybe they said that that day was the day that somebody did something. Like they were planning that. they might not have ever done it, but maybe that's
I
what they were originally planning.
I my thoughts are that it's simple. It's very simple. They gave the phone to a PA. They said put a funny date on it or something. The guy put 910, you know, 2001 or 91001, and they went with it. And that's it. Then, if the film did well, they would, um people might find it and talk about it. If it didn't do well, then it didn't matter. So it's yeah, I'm because it's and I will say this, it's a different subject, but Lee cannot act to save himself.
In that movie, maybe,
Oh my
but I
God, he
like
is
him in
bad.
everything else. I like him in everything
I
else.
he barely speaks in Death Sentence, but I his voice is so high pitched and so whiny that I just remember, because I saw everyone in the theater, and I just remember like the audience like laughing at his voice, and even some of his one-liners I thought were cringy. They just seemed to be written one-liners. So I don't think that he maybe had you know his
Yeah.
writing chops yet. But because everybody else was fine.
Yeah, I mean, he was I didn't mind him, honestly. Maybe because he was in the scene with Carrie Elwes, and Carrie Elwes was so much better. Like, it just sort of, it made him sort of elevate in a way,
Be worse.
because yeah, because like you can't, if you're gonna go up against somebody big like Gary Elwes, you're not gonna probably be able to compete acting wise, and stuff. If you're, especially if you're new, this is your big first gig. I think, because he wanted to play Adam in this movie, so probably because he wanted a like an acting career. And you've seen him in other stuff. You saw him in that one movie you were telling me about. What was that movie? There's something where he like was supposed to commit suicide or something in the movie.
Oh yeah,
Bye
that's
Bye Man. Bye Bye
Bye
Man.
Bye Man, which he's fine in. So
Yeah.
it's just him getting his acting chops and him getting his writing chops,
Yeah.
and I think for as far as the writing goes, they did a very good job with the tightness of what they could do with the movie. All right, you
Right.
guys get the big set's going to be the bathroom. That's what we're going to do. You're going to have a bathroom, and that's it. And then then we'll just go find a house, and then we'll just go find a parking lot, whatever. Uh, um, so it's but it's just, yeah. Whenever I watch the film, he just always stands out to me like, wow, he is not good. He is not a. But I find it interesting that everything, yeah, like some of the stuff from the short that was brought over as far as style goes, they've kept it.
Right.
The music, the music, the editing, the lighting, the grunginess. Every movie has that until it pretty much hits Spiral, I want to say. Because even though that's one of the Saw directors, it does have a different kind of look. So it's which I don't blame them for, because Spiral is
Huh.
a different movie.
Right.
It's Chris Rock's movie, so
Yeah,
people
he
have
was.
called it, which I don't like calling it this, but they've called it the Black Saw. And it's like, well, just because it has a black lead actor doesn't mean that it needs to be
Well,
called the
I
Black
think
Saw.
also the fact that Chris Rock, he like helmed it, they probably
Oh, it was
tried
his
to.
idea. He
Yeah,
brought it to them. He said, I want to make a Saw movie. Here's the story.
right.
And
So
and,
I think
and
like people call it just the same as everybody calls the Ghostbusters 2016 the Lady Ghostbusters. I mean, it's what it is,
oh well,
but
that deserves it.
yeah, that does. But just saying, I'm saying like people call things whatever it whatever it looks like to them and everything. And I think that's sort of messed up, but I don't call it the I don't call it anything
Well,
but
oh well,
Spiral. You know?
Yeah, I mean it has the much longer
I,
title, but Spiral from the Book of Saw, I think is the full title. But
yeah,
it's I don't think there's a book, but it's an interesting title. But it's kind of like with Scream, so you might as well bring up Scream of the on MTV. There was the 2 seasons, and then they did the one extra season, and that which was known as the Black Scream because it was mostly
I
like black actors.
I heard people call I know what you did last summer series the Black I know what you did last summer. So because it was primarily urban. And that's fine, whatever. I mean, like, I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna call it that because that's just rude. But like I don't like I'm not gonna get into semantics with some people about it because I think that's just silly. I'm just gonna tell them like, dude, call it whatever you want to call it. I call it the title of the movie, Spiral from the Book of. Well, I actually just call it Spiral because it's
People just call it Spiral.
yeah,
It's too
it's just easier.
way too long of a title.
Yeah, I don't even think like I think on my 4K it just says Spiral. I don't think it says the book from the Book of Saul. So it's just simple.
Imagine putting that up on a marquee.
That's
The
generally
guy's yelling
why
down, "Can we just put Spiral? People
I
will
know.
know what it is."
Maybe because wasn't there an Adam Green movie called Spiral too? So it's
Yeah, there
so
is one. Yeah,
funny. Adam Green, every movie he has been the title has been done or it gets done later, like Frozen. He made Frozen first, and then Disney made their Frozen, and then
you should see it.
Spiral. There's a Spiral, and Hatchet was actually a book by Gary Paulson that title so I'm like geez man
Yeah, I've never
uh
seen his Spiral. I mean, this is the Spiral. So
yeah,
that's throughout the movies that they keep finding this like
right, and I
walls
said
and
yeah,
stuff.
so you see
So
that Spiral in on Billy, right? Like
yeah,
um
it's on his cheeks.
yeah, um which he's never called Billy in this one. They do allude to Jigsaw, being a Jigsaw, the Jigsaw
Yeah,
murders
because
or
the
something.
the piece of skin that's missing.
Yeah. And it
A
looks like a
lot of
jigsaw.
this stuff kind of disappears over or changes over time. They I think they because they didn't know what they had. So,
I mean, they
you know,
weren't probably planning a franchise necessarily.
no,
Right.
if they were, they wouldn't give their lead villain brain cancer.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. Like, I think they would have made sure that he was able to, or they would have been like, where a line where he said, I had brain cancer, but I beat it, like or something,
yeah,
where,
they that's why they had to keep bringing him back in like flashbacks all the time in the
uh,
other movies, or a videotape that they found or something on a computer or whatever it is. Tobin Bell was always brought back for whatever it was, but it was
so
I don't know if I don't think he's in Spiral. He
I
might
have
be.
a funny story. So I was in Burbank at my favorite was it the favorite cafe that I went to is called Priscilla's. It's just if you guys ever get a chance to go to a cafe in Burbank, go to Priscilla's. It's wonderful. And I was hanging out with God, I'm blanking on the name right now. Uh dude Eric. He's a friend of mine. And he's an actor. And we were chatting for a little bit, and then we left, or we were going to go back to our cars. And as I was walking back to my car at Priscilla's, I noticed like Brendan Mitchell, What Movie One, and I was like, oh my God, And he was there with his buddy Aaron, and we're all hanging out, just chit chatting. And then so Brendan looks over at me, and goes, "Hey man, does that look like does that look like Tobin Bell over there
Mermaid.
sitting down?" And I was like, and I looked over and I was like, kind of, maybe. I can't tell necessarily. And he was like, I was like, are you gonna go over there and say something to him? And he's like, no, no, I don't want to. Even if it is him, I don't want to bother him during lunch. And I was like, that's probably a good idea. You don't want to
Uh,
piss off Jigsaw. And so we were just chit-chatting about, but like, yeah, I mean, because I'm sure if that was Tobin Bell eating, and if you're listening, Tobin, and that was you, let us know because that's kind of cool. But if that was Tobin Bell, I don't like, I wouldn't want to bother him because he's there to just eat and relax and not be bothered by fans, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Right.
Plus, I'm not as big of a fan as like those guys probably were. Those guys were probably much bigger fans of Saul than I was. This was the only movie I've seen so far, so I'm excited to dive into them because maybe I will become a fan after this. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll,
They,
you know.
I mean, people have said that they're hit and miss. I like people don't like part five. I love part five, because it's more of a murder mystery, so it's more of
Right.
a detective type thing.
So it kind of
Um,
takes a different turn.
yeah, and then six would be my favorite one because that actually deals with insurance, so it's political. So I
Right.
like that. Um, seven, I think, should have been two movies, but
Oh, like part one
that's
and part two.
no, it just could have been seven and eight. It just they
Okay.
could have done they that's when Paranormal Activity came out and just knocked it out of the number one spot. And so they're like, oh fuck it, let's just end it. And they just did in like 90 minutes. They tried to fit in everything into like the
Oh.
final movie. And it's like,
Oh.
you could have brought back everybody that's still alive to
In
kind
part
of give
eight,
this,
yeah.
yeah, this big goodbye.
Yeah,
And
but
they didn't. Instead, they just did this 3D gimmick. Um, and then a lot of
wasn't
people,
Saw 3 a 3D too?
no, Saw 3 is just Saw 3.
Wait, where did I see that? Because I saw that Carrie Elwes comes back. In one of them, right? Again.
I'm
Um,
not saying.
all right, but I'm only saying that because it was they said it was in 3D, whatever one it was, and I was like, oh, I
Well,
think it
the
was
one that's in 3D is Final Chapter, so that's seven.
okay, okay, because then all
He
right,
had a huge falling out with them because he wanted that like back end money. He wanted because they never expected. I guess he took like a pay cut to be in the first film, and
mm-hmm.
then the film did like massive, and then it was just like, hey, come on, I'm like the guy in the movie. Can you throw me some extra cash here because this film has made so much money, and they didn't.
Well,
And
I
then,
heard like they had a deal though, right? They had a deal where it was 1%. And then, in the back end, and he didn't get that 1% in the back end
that's
and
that
stuff.
money that he
Yeah.
wanted. Yeah, because it was
Yeah.
huge.
And so he wanted that. And that was, and maybe he didn't even think this would be huge, but he was just hoping, just like, that would be like if George Lucas said, I'm going to take less money and I want the merchandise rights, right? And then Fox, saw how well the merchandise was doing. It was like, well, fuck you, we're gonna just keep the merchandise. You don't get it and stuff, like reneged on their deal. You know what I mean? Like that's the same kind of thing because like he was taking less money so that he could get so that he could work on this project and and probably nobody they probably said 1% for Carrie Elwes because they didn't think they thought it might be just one movie and then like you never know. This movie might have only made like $10 million, which is still a profit, a pretty good profit, but not nearly as much as like $1 million or like $100 million, you know, like
Right.
or whatever. So,
Yeah.
um,
I mean, I guess, you know, came to some sort of agreement or made up or whatever it was. Cause yeah, because he does come back eventually.
yeah,
It's not very satisfying, but I actually think out of all of them, and that goes up to part 10, I think Final Chapter is probably the worst one.
yeah, and you said just because they crammed everything in and they should have done
They just
more.
they could have just done one more movie, just kind of
I mean, they
just,
did, but it
you know,
wasn't like, yeah, that wasn't.
well, it was years later, but if they, I mean, okay, so your movie's number two. It's
Yeah,
not number one, so okay, so Paranormal Activity, knocked you out of number one.
Well,
Just give us
Paranormal
a.
Activity was, I mean, and that's funny because, that's Blumhouse, so that's sort of in the area of like James Wan stuff. So it's sort of like, Blumhouse kicked Saul's butt, and Saul was what sort of gave James Wan his start. So I don't know, but Paranormal Activity was what gave Blumhouse their start. So there's always going to be that competition between them, you know, and
Yeah, and then they figured out a perfect way to go with Saw 10. So, and then that was, of course, made a shitload of money, and now they're
yeah,
going to do Saw 11. So I hope that they only stick with that, because Saw 10 is almost 2 hours, and it's mostly a drama. It's just mostly about John going to this research center to hopefully, get rid of the cancer. And because Tobin Bell is now older, it actually works. He
right,
looks like he's thin, and
yeah.
and so it works between one and
Well,
two.
all right, all
So
right. No more talking about future shit because I will. I can't wait to see them. Those movies or whatever. But
yeah, I only think each one kind of gets better. I really think it's one of those series, and even this. I mean, I like the obsessive stuff with Danny Glover, which I thought was a little weird. Like, are you obsessed over this because of your partner dying? It's like it wasn't like your
I think he
wife or
was
kid.
obsessed like that before because even before then, his partner was kind of telling him, "Hey, calm
Yeah,
down,
he's
man."
looking at
Like,
the TV and,
yeah,
and stuff. Yeah, it's
he was kind of like going a little crazy and stuff, and his partner was telling him to calm down. So he was already getting obsessed. When his partner died, I think it made it a little even more over the top. But were they all in the same apartment or something, like complex or something like that? Like I didn't fully get where what's his name? The
so I think all
Zeppo or
three.
whatever it was
Yeah, I think so Zepp, I'm not sure exactly where he is. Glover was, I think, in the like a house or an apartment across the street,
from the
because he's
from where
from
they
the
are because he can hear
yeah,
the
from
gunshots or something, right?
yeah, so he's monitoring as he thinks the doctor is still Jigsaw. And so he's watching them, and then you have Adam who's taking pictures. So they're all kind of in that little area
Yeah.
together. It doesn't, yeah, I guess it doesn't really make a lot of sense
It's a little
geography
confusing.
wise.
It's a little
Yeah.
confusing because you're seeing areas, but you're not seeing areas like full areas and stuff. So you're just not exactly sure where you are. And maybe that was intentional, for sort of chaotic effect of like paranoia of like where are we? What's going on? Because there is a lot of that in the movie. There's a lot of where like things are happening and you're just like, what the fuck? Whoa, where did how did this happen? Where's this going? Are the and I'm so glad that Monica Potter and the daughter who is played by Alexa Pena Vega's uh sister, younger sister. Alexa Penavega is the girl from Spy Kids, and it's really funny because she was Alexa is interesting because her name was Alexa Vega, right? And then she married a guy with the last name Pena, you know? And so they decided to like combine their names together. So both of them are Penavega now, you know? And
Okay.
so, yeah, it was like one day I saw it on like her credit and I was like, wait, what? Like, did she marry some guy named Penavega? Like, and have the same last, like, sort of like the ending of her last name? I was like, that's kind of weird. And then I look over and I go, wait, no, she just literally they just combined the name. Interesting way to do it. That way you're taking each other's names. I've never seen that. I've never seen people do that. Like if you got married to a last name of like Johnson, you wouldn't be Johnson Ward or Ward Johnson. You'd probably still be John Ward, and she would be either your last
No,
name or she
but
would say,
if I married Megan Ward, which I wanted to do for quite a long time, then she would be Megan Ward hyphen Ward.
Would you do that to her?
I would suggest it.
You would suggest it. You'd be like, be Megan Ward dash
Excuse me,
Ward.
Megan Ward hyphen Ward. Can we get a word with you over here, please? Ward, can we please get a
Would you like an award?
Ward? Megan
Oh,
Ward won an award.
by the way, I'll do I do the TikToks and stuff, and I'll start doing the editing, and I will go and I'll hashtag John Ward. When I do that, sometimes it'll be like John Wars, because S and D apparently are close enough to each other that it's just like, and stuff. So I'm like, John Wars, that's a pretty cool name, or I forgot what the other one is because they're like apparently close enough to each other that it gets another name for you, apparently, you know.
Well, could I do like John Psycho Ward?
It's like that could be your middle name if you ever. I don't know what your middle name's Lee though, right? So you'd have to
John,
change it.
I have two. John William Lee.
Really? Why do you always
Yeah.
just go John Lee Ward?
So my license is my full name. Sometimes I go John William Ward, and sometimes I go John Lee Ward. It just kind
Oh.
of depends on what I want to do.
If it's
But yeah,
Lee is shorter, so I'm guessing that's
yeah,
typically
John
why
Lee
you
Ward.
that's why you would do it, or
Yeah,
John L. Ward, you
John
know,
L.
John L. Word. Hey, isn't there
But
a
but
TV show called L Word? No,
there is. But if I figured if I had to do like a Paul Anderson and do like Paul W.S. Anderson, I would do like John W.L. Ward.
John W. L. Word. Okay, damn.
Yeah. Directed by
That's it.
John W.L. Ward.
Well, you
Yeah,
might need to because there are other, like I looked up your IMDb and there are other John Wards out there. There are a lot of them actually.
I'm
So
sticking with my name and until
has
they
anybody
tell me
has
otherwise.
anybody ever told you you can't have that name because they have it already?
No, but somebody did message me. This was a while back. It said, "Hey, are you the guy who directed Lover's Lane?"
Oh, right, because that's John
And
Ward.
I said, "No, that's Jon. I'm John."
Ah,
But thank you. I enjoyed the movie.
thank you. I'm okay being that. They wanted to interview you, I'm sure, interview you for a podcast.
Today on One Filmmaker, one film, I'm interviewing John Ward by John Ward.
Do it. Get that guy on your show, interview him so you can say, "Hi, John Ward," and then you're like, "Oh, I'm talking to myself. Sorry, hold on." Uh, the other John Ward. You know?
I wish I would
Um,
make a movie with Anna Faris. That'd be great. So,
yeah, well,
but
um,
to stay on target, yeah, to go back, I was just thinking as we were talking about the house because it doesn't. Danny Glover has like the camera, I think, sticking out, and then Adam is taking the pictures because when we see the pictures later, and he's
yep.
like, "Hey, is there somebody else staying in your house?" And that's where you see Zepp. And then Zepp has to be close enough to where he can run when he's like, "Okay, time to kill you guys," that he can make it from,
Wherever he's
you
at
know,
to wherever they're
yeah,
at.
to the house. And then Glover and him, Zepp, have the car chase
Yep.
and then end up back at the mannequin shop, I guess, or wherever it is.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was just a little bit chaotic where I just didn't know where everything was
They
exactly.
probably just didn't have the budget to explain where everybody was. It's like, yeah, you're in a house, you're in an apartment, you know,
And it
we have
didn't really,
access
you're
to
in the
another one.
hospital, like, it was enough where I'm okay with
It didn't bother
whatever.
me any. Yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't bother me at
It
all.
didn't bother me. It's just sort of like I noticed it. I was like, oh man, I don't know where I'm at, necessarily, but it didn't take me out of the movie. The movie itself was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. I had a fun time. It was enjoyable, you know. So I'm excited to see part two, and see where Darren Lynn Bozeman, who seems like a really nice guy. I was friends with him on Facebook. I don't know if I still am or not. But he has always been one of those guys that seems really cool in the indie world, you know, very nice to everybody, you know, and so I'm excited. And James, I think, did Lee write the Lee write the sequels? At least a couple of them.
Yeah, up to three, I believe he's listed as, yeah, both him and James Wan are listed as writers. But part two is an original script by the director.
Okay.
So they converted it into a Saw 2. So it's like we're gonna take this original script and then I guess Lee and James
I think
made
they
it
wrote the
into.
story maybe,
So
and stuff because I know they got story credit together for this one. And I remember reading that James and Lee both came up with the idea together when they were just like trying to think of low budget stuff that they could do, like something they could do for a low budget and everything. Like they both came up with the name Saul or something like pretty much at the around the same time they thought, "Oh man, this is perfect." So I'm very excited. I think Saul was a great name for a horror film, that hadn't been done yet. The title hadn't been done. It's crazy, You'd have thought that by now, like somebody had made a movie called Saul, you know, and before James did in 2004. So, but yeah, I if somebody came up to me and asked me, I would totally tell them I totally recommend this movie.
oh yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I
it became huge. So I remember they had on like bus stops and stuff those giant posters, and it said if it's Halloween, it must be Saw. That was like the big thing every single year, is that we knew that we were getting a new
that
Saw movie.
I think that's what Justin Hubbard always said. Like Halloween was a new Saw, like 420 was a new Evil Bong. July whatever was a new Sharknado. Shark Week was a new Sharknado. We always used to have that kind of stuff. Now we don't have anything to look forward to. It's just like if something gets made, it gets made, but like there's nothing.
I guess Scream, and they're doing the new one. Oh, so what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on Kevin Williamson and Nev and as
Um,
a British person called her, are we saying her name wrong? He kept calling her Neve. Is it
no.
Neve or Nev? I thought it was Nev.
I always heard Nev, so I'm always gonna
Yeah,
call her
yeah,
Nev.
maybe overseas it's Neve. I don't know.
Maybe some people I noticed that like some indie like actually it's interesting that you say that because somebody said the exact thing that you said, Neve, and they called her that on a TikTok and a bunch of people corrected her and then she realized like I think after she put it out she said it wrong, so it is pronounced Nev like
Yeah,
that's
that's what I thought,
yeah.
and I've been corrected on like Mila Jovovich. Is they're like, no, it's Jolovich. It's like,
Yeah,
no, the J is an H,
remember we've
and
been. Oh, God.
I know that because on the audio commentary for the first Resident Evil film, she yells at Michelle Rodriguez. And she goes, yeah, I couldn't believe I was making a movie with Mila Jovovich. And she goes, Holovich. It's Holovich. She goes, we made a whole movie together, and you still can't pronounce my last name correctly. So it's like, yeah, we're overseas. So what I noticed is European, it's Holovich. In America, it's Jolovich. So
Well,
maybe it's Neve over there and Nev over here.
I don't know. Uh, so somebody once pronounced Sarah Michelle Gellar's name as Galar, right? And if you look at it, that's how it looks like. So maybe it actually is, and like she just never corrected people on it.
Funny you say that because I say Galar, but I go Galar because of Howard Stern. So
Right.
he did not get along with her. I think her and Freddie Prinze Jr. for a while, there was a little bit of a thing going on. And then they came on the show. But he would always go, Sarah Michelle, Galar. And so I just got used to saying Galar. And it's just like, wait, but am I saying her name wrong? Is
I
it
don't know.
Geller?
I don't know. You can only find out from her, or if she pronounces her name, specifically, in like an interview or something, or her just chit-chatting about it. Because, yeah, but there's that. There's we had this discussion earlier about Melissa Barrera, you know, and the fact that I forgot who it was. It was a talk show host. It could have been Drew Barrymore, or what was that chick that was like a country singer now turned like interviewer?
Well, there's Carrie Underwood, but I don't
Maybe.
think that's.
Maybe
Are you
that was
maybe
it.
thinking of Kelly Clarkson?
Kelly Clarkson, she has a show. She has a show, and that might have been she might have been chatting with Melissa, and it was either her or Drew Barrymore, one of those uh interviewers, and they got along and they kind of said her name exactly right, and they actually brought it up as like this is actually how you pronounce your name, right? And stuff like that. And she's like, you got it right, exactly. Yes, thank you. And no, everybody just calls me Melissa, and I just kind of let it people do that. And I was like, you know, so Nev, if she is Neve, because we know Neve, you hate that name from Neve Schulman, you know.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
from Catfish.
from Catfish. You've always said like you hate that he
I
calls
just
it Neve. You don't know, I don't know
Neve, come
why.
over here. It's like God, just call him like Steve. It's a name that it annoys me. For a girl, if it is Neve Campbell, I'm perfectly fine with it. But for a guy, it's just like, no, dude, come on, just no. And I don't want you to be called Nev either. But it's probably a nationality thing. So, but what are your thoughts on what's happening then?
Um, you know, first of all, Kevin Williamson is back in the director's chair. I don't know if it was you or somebody I was chatting with, and I was like, Kevin Williamson hasn't directed since Teaching Mrs. Tingle, and like I've been wanting him to direct again. And I think it's like perfect that he's directing Scream 7. Um, kind of because
Has
they
he ever
already
directed anything? Maybe
since
TV?
no, he hasn't directed anything since
Oh wow. Okay.
yeah, since Teaching Mrs. Tingle. I
Wow,
think
that
that
is a long
left like
time.
a really nasty taste in his mouth. I don't know what it was about that project because we've reviewed it and we both liked it from what I remember. I mean, we enjoyed it enough and
Yeah, it's not great, but it's yeah. There was studio interference.
yeah.
I actually like the name change. I don't think killing Mrs. Tingle was appropriate,
Well, it wasn't appropriate
but
because they changed the story anyway. It wasn't about because the original story was them actually killing the teacher. But then Columbine hit, and they were like, "Oh no, 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 no! We can't have you killing the teacher. You're gonna have to change that." So they changed it to teaching the teacher, whatever, and
I
it
think
worked.
it's a better title.
And
I enjoyed the movie,
it's
but I think I
PG-13, and it's a
oh that I
nice
don't like. Yeah.
it's a nice movie. I don't know, I like it.
But do you
Uh,
want nice? Don't you
I,
want more, especially
edgy.
from him? Well, no, he did do
No,
Dawson's Creek and everything,
yeah,
so.
I like Dawson's Creek. I
But if
like
it's a Scream movie, let's hope it's R and let's get some blood in there.
Well, it wasn't a
And
Scream movie. This wasn't like a horror film, really. If you like think about it, even though it is a horror film, it's not a horror film. It's more of a thriller, I guess, but it's like, and comedy. It's got a lot of comedy in it. I mean, it's not your typical like it's not a slasher, you know. If it were and it wasn't meant to be. Um, it's really funny because killing Mr. Griffin was a book by Lois Duncan. Lois Duncan also wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer. So I'm wondering if he was a fan of Lois Duncan and did Teaching Mrs. Tingle, but originally called Killing Mrs. Tingle, and I think it was supposed to be his version of that, just but it was remember it's his first script that he ever wrote, you know, and it it got bought by what's Rob Reiner's company, and then put on
oh, Castle
turnaround,
Rock.
Castle Rock, and then got on turnaround and then Miramax picked it up after Scream, because, they were like, the whole, I think one of the deals was after Scream, he would write other stuff for Dimension, with the fact that he would also be directing, teaching Mrs. Tingle, you know. So he got to do that, but after he wrote like The Faculty and all the other stuff he had to write for Dimension, including writing for was it Halloween H2O. He wrote like the story or something for that, you know. I don't think he wrote like a full script or anything.
Well,
And
who's writing Scream 7? I thought it was the same guys from.
yeah, well, same guy. The same guys wrote the story. The one of the guys, which is Guy, and speaking of Guy, his name is Guy Busick, I think his name, and it's like Busick, and
Guy Busick. Okay, got him right here.
he's the guy who did like, no pun intended, did what is it, Ready or Not, and a few other ones for radio, and the first, the fifth and sixth Scream. So he was on board to do the seventh originally before, um, before Radio Silence dropped out, and had plans to do other stuff, or whatever. And then all the crazy stuff. So I have this theory, and don't quote me on this or anything because I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that they were gonna get rid of Melissa and Jenna, you know, at some point. Maybe
But
the
their story
company,
ended. Their story ended. They had a two story
yeah, but I
like
think they were,
arc.
yeah, and I think that was always what the company had planned, right? So I think that's what they had planned, and then but they had, she was, Melissa and Jenna were still up to doing part seven, right? If they were brought back, because there still was the core four stuff, which I hate.
Ugh.
And we've talked about that. And then there's, so I think what ended up happening was that uh they saw that thing with Melissa on Instagram, and they use that as an excuse, like, we want to get rid of her already, let's just use that as the excuse to get rid of her. And so that's what happened. It's a poor, terrible thing, and I don't believe that people should be boycotting the movie because of that. I think it's a stupid mistake. They uh should have just told her we're not interested in having you come back, Like, and as long as they didn't have a contract with her, they had a contract that she was going to be in part
Well,
seven, then,
or maybe actors could just shut up, and
well,
just,
I
I mean, I
mean,
don't, do I really care what her political views are?
but do you post
No, I
political
don't.
things? I know Paul
Not
does.
anymore.
Um,
No.
but see,
But Paul's not like a filmmaker or anything. I
right.
mean, but it's no, and that's why I don't do it anymore, because all you do is piss off one side. And as I'm sure some of my political review, or political views these days would probably piss off a lot of people. So it's like, no, it's better to just, fuck, all I did was put hashtag rip Doctor Who, and I got destroyed and immediately deleted the post. But nobody asked me why I was directly putting that. And I just thought the show went from great to bad. But that was over a series of years.
Yeah, I mean, you
Um,
put that down there, and there's already a thing about an agenda happening, and all that stuff, and people taking offense to anybody who goes against whatever they're doing. They're gonna attack you. Like, you're just gonna
yeah,
there's no
and
way
it's very,
around that.
it's so whatever the reason was for getting rid of, the studio getting rid of her or wanting both of the girls gone. Okay, fine. To me, their story ended when she dropped the mask at the very end.
Yeah, and
And
then
if
that can
you,
be the reasonable spot.
yeah, she's and so I hope that all of that is gone. I hope that they don't. I still would like to have Courtney Cox back, even if she's like maybe a pre-credit kill or something, I don't want her to die off screen. I don't want her to go,
Uh,
oh no, it was sad. She
remember,
died in the
yeah,
ambulance.
we talked about that. That's why they left it like that, so they
That
could,
which is
you
yeah,
know, which is
I
which
hope.
is bullshit. I think she should be the opening kill. Like that sounds terrible, but like she should be the Drew Barrymore.
No, because
Because
I just said it too, and I think that would be fine. I mean, it's and then
but
you
the
have
problem right now is like who is Sydney going to who's Sydney's group? What's Sydney gonna be doing now? Is it just gonna be her alone? Or is she gonna have like a new boyfriend?
well, no, because she's married.
Oh, she's married. She's married to
She's
Patrick
got
Dempsey.
McDreamy,
So
yeah, and she's got the
uh
kid, and
that's right, that's right. So
so I guess wherever she's at, it could take place there,
as long
and
as they
then
don't bring Matthew Lillard back as like
I think that'd be hilarious.
I I
I
just think
I
it's so stupid and it's terrible and
I I could so see them doing that because it would be so dumb. And people loved him. People love Matthew Lillard. I mean, I didn't realize how much love the guy gets. I mean, they loved him in Five Nights at Freddy's, and I mean, he's just like this beloved actor that people love. So I think even if it was stupid, if he was orchestrating all of this from prison, or if he broke
like
out of prison,
his freaking
that
head got smashed with a fucking TV. I can't buy it, man.
he's missing an eye.
Oh no.
Maybe his
No, he's
mouth
got
is
an eye patch.
it's kind of like this, and it's just, hey Sydney, how you doing? That type of thing.
Look,
You
I
know.
love Matthew Lillard. If you look at my profile picture, it is me and Matthew Lillard hanging out from Texas Frightmare. He was one of the coolest guys. I talked about this to a friend of mine. I said, he was really sweet to me, but he was more sweet to the girls. The girls that came and hugged him and everything, and were just like all over him and everything. He was super, like he was happy to have that, and I don't blame him. I would be too if I were him. So
Well,
I love the
well,
dude.
when I worked, I don't think it was Men's Warehouse yet. But when I was working with tuxedos after I was formal wear, I got a phone call from his wife, and she gave me his measurements for a tuxedo,
Nice.
and so we
Is it
ordered
a wife still, or are they divorced?
that. I don't know because this is 20 years ago or something like that, and I told her, if he makes a third Scooby Doo movie, you got to get Davy Jones to be in it, because Davy Jones was in the cartoon. So I'm like, you got to get Davy Jones in there, and she goes, well, I'll tell him. So that's my story of Matthew Lillard. Is I spoke to his wife on the phone, and
Yes.
I know his
Spouse
measurements.
Heather Helm, who was August 26, 2000 to present. So I guess it was in at 2000 past, that you met him because you were talking about Scooby Doo, so it had to be 2004 or six or something, uh that you got to talk to her. Or later, I don't know. Um, but anyway, that's really cool. What are his measurements? Do you know offhand?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Who I also got like I sold James Cameron a bow tie.
Well,
That was kind of cool.
was
And
it for
then
like a premiere or
he just came in looking for a bow tie, and I just for some reason completely blanked on Return of the Living Dead. No, I said Return of the Living Dead. So now I'm like every other fan out there, but what I couldn't think of was Frankenstein meets the space monster. And I was gonna say
James
you're in one of the
Cameron?
yeah, he's in Frankenstein meets the space monster.
What?
Mhm. From like 1954 or something
He's
like
in
that.
Return of the Living Dead? Who is he in Return of the Living Dead?
James Cameron?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm James Karen. I apologize.
Oh, Jesus
I
Christ. Scared the
apologize. I
shit out of me.
apologize.
I'm like, wait, what?
Not James.
Oh,
No,
God.
I did see James Cameron at the premiere for what was it for? Might have been for Avatar, and he gained a bunch of weight. And my friend who's like 6 foot something, as he left, he goes, "Hey James, you gained a lot of weight," and then we walked out. So, but yes, I'm
My
sorry, James Karen,
that
not
is
Cameron.
yeah,
Sorry,
that the Return of the Living
that's
Dead for James Cameron makes sense. And for the
yeah.
other one too, because I was like, wait, he was in freaking. I'm like, I'm totally,
Yeah.
you're mind blowing me at that point. But wait,
I wish I could
whenever,
still be blowing you then.
all right, well, stick around after. Anyway, what is it? What was I gonna say? So, James Cameron, everything anytime I think of him, I think of Entourage, where he's in that scene where he's at Sundance or whatever, and the Harvey, whatever they called him, Harvey Weinberger or whatever he was, starts yelling at Vincent and you'll never work in this town again or whatever, and James Cameron just looks over and goes, "Fuck it, Harvey."
I remember him on that. I liked that he played himself on that he was doing Aquaman. So
Aquaman, yeah.
I just watched a documentary from Chris Gore about Attack of the Show and which is the G4 and James, which is all about gaming and Olivia Munn is on there
Mhm.
and who's gorgeous on there. And James Cameron was a huge fan of that show, and he was on there a lot.
Yeah,
He would come in and do skits with them.
probably because to
So
see Olivia Munn. I mean,
I don't think
um,
that's a bad thing at all.
no,
So
she was in like the Predators movie or whatever. She
oh
got
yeah,
like
yeah.
some dude fired because he was child, like a convicted child molester. Um,
Yeah, his stuff was whatever was shot was cut out.
yeah,
And then yeah, then
and
she said that she would walk if and
yeah,
she's also in X-Men Apocalypse too.
and I totally get that. If they were working with children, um, like on the set with children, I think that would, but I wouldn't have. I mean, I think you should separate if he went to jail and paid for his crimes, like I'm sure she'll never work with Victor Salva, like
Oh God, I
absolutely
don't
not.
think anybody would anymore.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, after Jeepers Creepers, what else is dude gonna do? Like he's got
Well,
nothing
he
now,
didn't come back for part four. They handed
right?
that
Because
over to a
a
completely
completely
different
different
people.
company and everything. You interviewed that guy, the writer.
I interviewed the
Um,
writer, and then I was just on Philip Tricky's show, and that was just randomly brought up because I saw the worst movie ever, and that was Jeepers Creepers Reborn, and I'm like, well, I interviewed the writer, and I can tell you why it's that way. It's
yeah.
COVID and a lot of other stuff affected it, but yeah, and I could see because it was live, so we had the chat going, and people like that movie sucked, and I'm just
Oh, Jesus.
I'm like, yeah, I
Um,
think I'm the only guy who liked it. So,
well, I mean, I hadn't seen it yet. I don't like the Jeepers Creepers movies. And then when I found out, more about, Victor, I was just like, I don't like Jeepers Creepers 2, is about a bunch of high school kids, going to a football game or something like that, right? And their bus
yeah,
breaks
it's
down
the football
in
team and
their
like the cheerleaders.
football
Yeah.
team and the cheerleaders and the football guys have their shirts off. And
Oh, yeah, yeah. They're
I'm like,
sunbathing on top of the
I'm like,
bus. Yeah.
okay, so a very David Dakota feel, but David Dakota's never molested a child, and so I was just like watching that going, hmm, I don't think this should have been like allowed at all because
Hey,
at
Francis
first
Ford Coppola produced the movie.
I know like this should not have been allowed because and Francis knows about his, what happens his past because uh it happened after Clown House and Francis Ford Coppola produced that too. So I don't know why Coppola would do that or whatever, but anyway, the point being that like what creeps me out is that Victor thought of children while he was writing the script. He was writing a child, a minor is, even though it was probably played by a 20 something year old, or whatever, 30-year old, that's how most of those high school kids work. But still, like his mind is thinking about high school kids taking their shirts off.
Well,
So, like,
he's the creeper. He's admitted that. He's the creeper.
well, I mean, that doesn't make
That's
it any better.
No, no,
No.
he never apologized for what happened with the kid. He was, he went to court and everything, and he
He
didn't feel
hasn't,
bad about it.
as far as I know, he hasn't done it again. Like I said, as far as we all know, I don't know if he's done it and just got away with it, you know. But I just don't, and I had this one dude who was telling me don't like talk about Victor because like he's big in the film industry and you'll get, in trouble by saying that fuck that shit, man. Like I do not, child molesters are going down more and more so. Like there's documentaries, like docu-series coming out about it. There's stuff like people are being exposed to this
Well,
shit.
you just have to look, into his movies, like, Nature of the Beast. It's there,
Really? I
but
thought that
it's
was
not.
a more adult, film.
It is, but it's not like child molesting. But there's something when you watch it, there's something off
Right.
about it. Like I think once you know and you watch it, you're like, oh yeah, this doesn't seem right. And then of course he did Powder.
Powder, where the dude wasn't Sean William Scott like shirtless in that movie, if I'm correct? Like at one point he had no shirt on or something.
Oh no, no, the lead in it I think was the guy who played young Indiana Jones.
I thought it was Sean William Scott or Sean, not Sean William Scott, Sean Patrick Flannery.
Isn't
I
that isn't
I
that young Indiana Jones?
I don't know. Sean Patrick Flannery, he was from Boondock Saints. Um yeah, he's the dude from
Hey,
Boondock Saints.
I found I actually own Boondock Saints 2.
Okay.
Somewhere
Well,
along the line I own it. Um
you didn't like Boondock Saints 1 though.
no, but if you guys ever reviewed part 2, I'd probably sit through part
Yeah, so
1 and
Young
2.
Indiana
So,
Jones was
yeah,
was Sean Patrick Flannery. He also was in like Simply Irresistible, the Sarah Michelle Gellar movie, you know.
Galar.
You
Yeah,
guys just said it.
in it's very very creepy because he plays a very white, like powder, hence
Albino, like albino.
yeah, and he's
Yeah.
bald and he has no hair,
But
and
I
I
think
think
he has
Lance
no shirt on at some point. And once again, high school kid,
yeah.
no shirt. And it's just like, dude,
Well,
like,
and people touch him. I think it's Lance Hendrickson's character that
oh God,
kind
like
of
a teacher touch. Oh God.
yeah. So it's very, and I think that's I didn't know who Victor Savo was at the time
Right. When
because
you
I
first
just know
watched
I
it, you didn't
yeah,
know.
because we played it. Cliff and I played it at the theater, and I think it was the Tamalpais Theater in Northern California, and it was just like this is there's something weird about this. This doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Why does this guy look like a 5-year-old? This is weird.
Right. And
So he made a
so,
bunch of movies. It wasn't
uh,
just a Jeepers Creepers film. He's made like 5 or 6 films.
all right, I want to get back to Scream 7 and my
I'm
thoughts. I want to get away from talking about the creepy dude. So Scream 7, you were asking me, do I think like it should? Yeah, I mean, I will watch it. I love the Scream series. I love how people are like, if you're a fan of this series, you'll boycott it. I'm like, if I'm a fan of this series, why would I not want it to like keep going? Like that makes no sense. Like, why would I want this movie never to like what do people expect? That another company will take it over or something, and Spyglass will get shut out or something for like that doesn't happen, you know?
I had no problem with Dev Campbell not being in the last one because it gave Courtney Cox more of a part. I mean, she was able to do more.
Right.
And I like the line in the movie, where Ghostface says, "Hey, we've never talked before,"
Yeah,
and that's kind of like acknowledging it. And so
you're right.
I had no problem with that. When you have these long series, it's not necessary to always because I always thought of it like the Hammer movies. Well, Christopher Lee's not in every single Hammer movie,
Right.
and Peter Cushing isn't in every single Hammer movie. And then when it comes to the Frankenstein films, you know, Peter Cushing isn't always Dr. Frankenstein.
Right.
He may be in like 2 or 3, and then they'll skip him. And then, it's, I don't think it's absolutely necessary, especially this far into it. How many times, I mean, how many relatives does Nev Campbell have or Sydney have to come back to want to kill her?
Right. And I think like it's gonna be interesting, like I said. I don't know where like what really we're gonna get with this because like so there's gotta be some line in this next movie where some character says to like Ned like to Sydney like should I be around you? Because like every single time you're anywhere, uh, Ghostface shows up and kills people. So should I like
I
not be
thought
your
they
friend
I thought they didn't they do that line?
in Scream 4? Maybe?
Like whenever you're around people, they die.
Yeah. I think it might have been Scream 4 or can't be Scream 5. I don't think
But
they
they
did it.
but they should acknowledge it again. I mean,
Yeah, because
it's
especially if she's going to be the lead again. It's going to be about her story. Because I even think Scream 4 was at first I thought it was going to be more about Emma Roberts, and stuff, which I know you have a huge crush on and everything.
yes, very big.
Yeah. Uh,
Yes, love that
so
actress.
and honestly, she was my least favorite of the Ghostface villains. I think we talked about that,
So
just
hot as she's just like throwing herself around the room to get all bruised up. I mean, that was like a turn on. She's like throwing herself like on the mirrors and the glass tables, and it's like that's
she
hot.
was just way too over the top at the end. And
So
I didn't like it. It was like it was good acting, but it was like it was so I don't know. Just she was actually well, I take that back. I guess she's not my least favorite Ghostface villain. My least favorite was Roman because it was just bullshit, you know, that he was the that he was the mastermind behind everything. I'm like, so you're gonna bring that up in the third movie, like after like we've been hearing about Billy and Stu the whole time. Now all of a sudden there's this other guy that's never mentioned before that's just happens to
well,
be
she didn't know because her mom was a whore. Remember, that's what Billy said. Your mom is a whore. So
but I'm
she
saying like but we didn't know the audience. We should have known something. We should have heard Roman's name at somewhere or whatever, but we never did.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with the character that all of a sudden has a brother that shows up out of nowhere when within two movies the guy never says, "Oh, I have a brother," unless he never knew he had a brother, I guess. But
Well,
I mean, maybe this new killer can be like Sydney's cousin to the left of the right to the mom's brother's side of the family or something like that
well, what
and
about the sixth movie where they have the whole family of the guy that got murdered? The Jack Quaid's character, his family is the one that doing everything. I'm like, it's kind of boring because, like, really, like, and they weren't even interesting characters.
that's why I'm glad that they're gone. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see because I'm guessing this won't come out until next year.
Right.
But to kind of go back to this, I mean, I think we do have Saw 11 coming
Coming out
out.
this year. It said
Yeah,
this year.
so
It might not
we're
come out till next year, but I think it's because it hasn't even started production yet. So I'm like, how are they going to get this? Like, usually,
I
I
don't think
mean,
it shoot it within a year of each other. I mean, they're pretty fast on these. They just have to come up with a good story.
yeah.
So, and that's the same thing with Scream. You just with Kevin Williamson being a writer. That was the good thing
Well,
about Wes is that
I
he
was
was
kind
a
of sad
writer.
that he's not writing it, as
Yeah, maybe they have something under contract. But he's going to be a ghost writer. I mean, he's going
yeah.
to take the script and do some rewrites on it. I can't imagine that he wouldn't.
Most directors do, right? Like they do fix up things that they
I
sort
guess
of,
depending on the director. Yeah,
yeah,
I
or
mean,
they might like suggest something to the writer, like, and who better to suggest something than the original writer and creator of the series, and stuff. So I have a feeling that he wouldn't do anything he doesn't approve of. And I have a feeling it hasn't been announced yet, but I have a feeling it's going to be about January that this gets released because that's about the time that like most of these like horror films, get done unless it's like I don't think it's going to be like fall of next year that they put it out. You know, I think it's going to be January, So I'd be excited to see Scream 7. I know once again I don't care what anybody else says. I'm watching that. I'm watching that, and I'm also going to be watching coming up on coming up in a couple weeks or less, a week from Friday. I'm going to be at AMC watching the new Ghostbusters movie. So I'm really excited about that. Um
There you go.
but
Stuff to watch.
I'm not excited about The Crow. You asked me to watch the trailer for that, and I did, and I was just like, eh.
A lot of people are comparing it to John Wick, and I don't. I am one of those people that I think that they should retire the character
Of
and just
Eric
make it a
Draven, yeah.
new, yeah, it just for respect for Brandon Lee, and just make it a different guy,
Might
and
as well. I mean, why keep it? I mean, I guess because the namesake value of like everybody knows Eric Draven, but
well,
like
and the actress that plays his girlfriend looks she horrible. I guess she's a singer, like a popular singer.
I don't know who she
And if you
is.
watch the trailer, I think she's British, and she her dialogue is horrible. Her acting is horrible. And I
Yeah,
think he looks bad. He just to me he just looks like a guy in drag or something. He doesn't look cool. I'll even say he doesn't even look as good as oh fuck, now I'm blanking on his name. What's his face from Terminator 2? um John Connor.
was this was this Isabella Way or something? Was that who played? There's two girls in this movie that I can't tell which one it is, but it's Isabella Way, and then there's a black girl named FKA Twigs that's in this movie.
That's I think that's the girlfriend. I know the girlfriend's
Okay, she's a singer,
black.
and yeah, she just has done nothing but music videos, so this would be her. She was in Honey Boy, uh the movie that Shia LaBeouf wrote and acted in, or it was about his life. I actually reviewed it. I dug it. I thought it was a good movie. But I could, I don't remember her in the movie, and her name's FKA Twigs. Like, that is not a cool name to me. Like, that's weird. I don't know. I'm not name shaming. You have whatever name you wanna
Edward
have.
Furlong. There we go.
What about it? But
I'm sorry, I just thought of it, so I didn't want to lose it. I was saying I don't like the look of the new Crow. I think that it just kind of looks like a dude in drag. But I said, but it's sad when Edward Furlong's Crow looks better than this one.
yeah, I didn't mind Edward for long, um, as the Crow. But I never liked the Crow. I just never got into it. Just wasn't my
I
thing.
I wanted Rob Zombie was going to do a futuristic one like Crow 2047 or something that was never made. I thought that sounded kind of cool. And before we went all woke and everything, I've always wanted to see a female Crow because I think there is a comic book with a female Crow. And I thought, well, we've already had like four guys. Why not make one a chick? But now I don't want it because it's going to be all DEI and all that type of stuff. It's like it's going to ruin it now. It
Yeah,
just
they'll have to make it be where girls are better than dudes, period, and maybe there would be a lesbian Crow, and and when which I look, hey, I'm all for
Lesbian Crow, I
LGBTQ
don't think would be bad.
LGBTQ stuff. Like, I'm all down for that. I just don't want things like just like how Disney is. Just don't shove shit down my
I don't
throat.
need Luke Skywalker to be gay. He's not gay. He's straight. Just make a new character. You don't have to take existing characters and
Did
change
they make
them.
Luke Skywalker gay? I don't know.
Yeah,
Where?
they're saying
Which
he's
movie?
gay. It's not. It's in one of the books. In the books, they're
Oh,
now calling him that because
oh
of one.
no.
Yeah. So
He
it's
was
there.
married to Mara in the original books, so fuck that shit. I like
Yeah.
Mara Jade. Yeah, there's this girl
I
who's
mean,
got a YouTube channel. She fucking will be on my thing. If I put anything about the legends, she just attacks me about the legends, and I'm like, and not like she likes the Disney ones better, you know, but like I don't know. So I'm just like, I want to see Mara Jade. I like her character in the books, you know, but
No, it's kind of like what they did with, you know, with the Justice League and the game that just came out, Suicide Squad kills the Justice League, and they killed off Batman and they killed off the Flash and and it's all for that bullshit reasons. And then if you look at what the new Joker looks like, it's like this is not the Joker. This is like just make a new character.
mm,
uh it's just, yeah. So I mean, I always thought it would be interesting to have a female crow, but just not for those reasons. It'd just be nice
right.
to mix it up. And I do think that, like I said, I think there is a comic book where there is a female crow, so it'd be acceptable. um but and if you want to make her gay, sure, why not? Okay, just don't, you know
You be
I
down
just
with
don't.
that. I mean, I'm down with that. I don't care.
Yeah, as Miranda, my friend Miranda, she pointed out to me that in apparently in my films I have a thing for lesbians but don't know it. So I keep writing parts for women, for two women.
Well, I
So
mean, originally guys liked lesbians because there's that like forbidden fruit kind of thing, you know, where we can't have it, you know, so we're kind of attracted to it, you know, a little bit. Um, but really nowadays, I just like lesbians because I'm friends with a lot of lesbians and I think they're awesome, you know, and I'm all for like equality and I'm all for that stuff. I'm just not all for uh destroying entertainment for the sake of that. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's all it is.
yeah, I think
It has
if
nothing to do with story.
I think if you had a great story involving lesbian characters and all this other stuff and it wasn't about, you know, it wasn't like Rey from fucking Star Wars and shit, you
Ugh,
know.
one of the worst characters ever created.
She's coming back, coming back.
Yeah, and it's the bull crap. If you follow the books and you follow the legends, you follow that should be Luke Skywalker. So but it's not that, Kathleen Kennedy decided to make Rey this new order type of thing. And it's, no,
No,
I,
no.
I won't be watching any of it. I won't have any part of it. What? So
I'm
ever.
surprised. I'm surprised because I thought you would do like your own episodes of your shows where you're just dissing on them, you know, or whatever. You're bringing up why you hate them and stuff. But I personally, I don't know.
I did a giant rant on Exorcist Believer, and I call out the patriot, the patriarchy. God, it's all about the patriot. God, I can't pronounce it.
Patriarchy.
Patriarchy. Thank you. I point out that line. So I go on a very big rant about how David Gordon Green should never make a movie again
I was
because of that
uh
film.
I was talking to some friends who were not in the film business and stuff about how I heard that because I hadn't seen Exorcist Believer yet. And so I said I heard that Exorcist Believer had that line about the patriarchy and stuff like that. And uh what one of my friends pointed out that Ellen Burstyn was like a fucking college, you know, like she was a I don't know, not bachelor's degree. She had a big thing, you know, like she was really smart, you know. So like, oh, she wouldn't have, like his point, I guess, was she wouldn't have done anything like this. She wouldn't have said anything if this wasn't something she truly believed or whatever. I think she would have done anything if she had the money, you know, got paid, you know. She'll say
I
whatever.
I I don't know why that was in there. I don't know why she said it. I don't know. All I know is
I mean, it,
her eyes get gouged out. I mean, she goes into the room with one of the possessed girls, and the girls gouge her eyes out.
well, maybe that was the
And
point. Like
and
maybe
that
that
was the
was
whole
the.
idea in the first film. I On Philip's channel we got into this too, and I'm doing the same thing with my hands because I'm Italian. Um, it's and I can say that because I am Italian. Um, the reason why they didn't let her in the room in the first movie, one, she's not a priest, two, she's not an exorcist, three, she's the mother and has way too much at stake in this. So it's like a total conflict of interest for her to be in the room, especially when both of the priests
I,
die.
and I don't even
And
know why she's mad about that because they get rid of you know
Pazuzu. Yeah, yeah. The
Pazuzu. So
the
like
the demon went into the priest who threw himself out the window. And
right.
then, and so when the
So like
guy,
everything won at the end of the day. Like why is she
yeah,
mad
and
about
it was,
that?
and no, but instead the father of the black girl goes to her, and she goes, but I wasn't allowed in the room, so I don't know what really happened in there. And he goes, well, why do you think you weren't? And she's like, the goddamn patriarchy. And I'm just like, done, done.
But I'm like,
It's
eh,
it's
eh,
like that has
was that a
nothing to.
joke? Maybe? Do you think? Like
No, it isn't, because then later on she goes to one of the girls, I think it's the white girl, and the girl's on her bed and she fucking gets her eyes gouged out, and she
right.
spends the rest of the movie in the hospital with like the surgical stuff on her eyes. And it's like, that's why you weren't allowed in the room. It's
But
like, you
that,
idiot. Like,
but
did you,
but isn't? Do you think that might have been the point that David Gordon Green was basically showing was that she was wrong, you
no,
know?
because why bring it up to begin with?
Because and there might have been also a little bit of a jab at the the fact that that's what everybody's calling everything is the patriarchy and stuff. Or maybe they needed that line in there. I don't know. I don't know.
I
But
don't know.
I
It's just
can't.
it's absolutely pathetic. And now David Gordon Green is not working on the next Exorcist, and I guess
Oh,
that
it
they're going
did.
to
It
do.
bombed. It didn't
Yeah,
do very
and
well.
they're still going to make the movies, I guess, just without him. But
Well, they
there's
have
no.
to because like they spent like so much money on it. They
Oh
still
yeah,
have to try to make the money back. They're just going to have to like recoup and figure out I don't know who's taking over or whatever.
it's
Um
one of the worst written movies I've ever seen. And
Remember I think who did that?
me me even being an atheist, I was even offended by the religious stuff in it. It's like nobody had ever watched The Exorcist or understands Catholicism or the type of demon that was possessing them.
So
Sam
remember this
Raimi,
guy, Scott Teems, that writes for all this shit and wrote like Firestarter and Halloween
garbage,
Kills and
garbage.
um fucking Exorcist Believer. He was now he's not working with Blumhouse anymore. And I'm thinking like, dude, like this is your weakest link. Like I'm sorry. Like he might be a great writer like in other respects in other films and everything, but these films he's working with Blumhouse have all been shit in my
Yeah,
opinion and stuff.
it's almost like, so maybe he's like a really woke writer or something, and he was watching The Exorcist, and he goes, "Oh, well, the whole reason why they wouldn't let her go up into the room when they told her to go downstairs is because she's a woman, and that's why." And so the men have to go do
He
it.
doesn't look like he's woke because
you
like
know, because there has to be a reason. Instead of her, if she was, she's talking to the dad and she just goes, he's like, well, I wasn't allowed in the room. And he goes, well, why not? She go, well, because I'm her mother and they wanted to keep me out of danger. Then that would be something else. And then maybe if because she wrote a book in the movie and maybe she was overconfident and then she went to go see one of the possessed girls, that would be different. But the way that it's absolutely stated is freaking pathetic.
all right, so
It's the
you're
movie's bad enough as it is.
The Exorcist Deceiver is being redeveloped, so not even Jason Blum knows what it'll be about. Universal Pictures and Peacock forked over an amount somewhere in the close of $400 million to
Yeah.
acquire the rights to distribute a trilogy of sequels to the 1973 classic The Exorcist, which were going to another collaboration between Blumhouse Productions and directed by David Gordon Green, who recently delivered a trilogy of Halloween sequels. They were definitely expecting the first entry in the new trilogy to go over better with audiences than Exorcist Believer did when it was released last October. You can read our 4 out of 10 review here. 4 out of 10 review. Ouch. The box office numbers were okay. The movie pulled in $137 million on a $30 million budget. So it made, $100 million, $107 million. So, but Universal was hoping for a lot better than okay, and the reactions were largely negative. Soon after the release of Believer, we heard that the Universal and Blumhouse still intended to carry out the trilogy, but the follow-ups would be reworked. While speaking to the Direct this week, producer Blumhouse founder Jason Blum confirmed that the new Exorcist movie, previously announced as Exorcist Deceiver, is being redeveloped. So right now, not even he knows what is going on. It's going to be. At one point, the Exorcist Deceiver locked in for April 18th, 2025 release date, with Green expected to return to direct from a screenplay he already worked out. But since the disappointment of Believer, Green has left the sequel and it was removed from the release schedule. Blum told the Direct that the movie was pulled from its 2025 release date so it could be redeveloped. We are definitely going to make another Exorcist movie, but I wanted more time to figure out what it would be. I have no idea what it's going to be yet. Um, um, oh, uh, so let me see if it said anything else that is specific. I don't think so. It's pretty much all that stuff is. Everything else seems to be about it said Green crafted the story for Exorcist Believer with Danny McBride and their Halloween Kills co-writer Scott Teems, then wrote the screenplay with Peter Sattler, and then he explained you know, um, the synopsis, and then he talks about whatever stuff. That's, I mean, sounds like they learned a lesson that didn't work out, and David Gordon Green was a one series wonder, I guess, because they did really well with Halloween, even though and you particularly has said that like Halloween Ends you like a lot more now and stuff. So I mean, whatever. It's just The Exorcist is not Halloween Ends or Halloween. Did not do what they wanted it to do, you know?
Yeah, I'm looking at Scott Teems right now. I've heard The Quarry is not bad, and he was the director and writer on that. But I heard that wasn't bad. Halloween Kills was garbage. Firestarter was garbage. He was one of the writers on Insidious: The Red Door, and we like that.
Yeah, I mean he was okay on that. Oh, and
Um,
he's married to a guy, I think. Wait, it says TJ Teams. I'm not sure if that's a guy or girl. But they have three children. Let me see. So he may be
yeah,
a
he
gay
just a gay,
gay guy. Yeah.
might be a gay.
Um
Yeah, he
uh
only did the story at least just for Exorcist Believer. So
TJ
that's
Teams.
not as bad. And
But he may be straight because I'm looking at it and all I see is see TJ Teams as a let me see if there's any images of them together. Uh let's see. Um, hmm. I mean, if he is, he is, but like that kind of the LGBTQ stuff is definitely, you know, um, big
he
on.
might have not had anything to do with that because he just did story. So, the story could just be a treatment.
Well, yeah,
And
but
then and then they add
he
in patriarchy later.
he could have been the one who put patriarchy in there because through the story, he could have said she says it because of the patriarchy, and they're like, oh, let's
I
keep
mean,
that.
it's possible, but I don't know. If he was the writer, I would definitely say so, but I'm not
But
sure.
was
But
Starter woke? I didn't see it because I had no interest really.
I don't think it was. It
I've
was
just heard really
cruel to
bad things.
animals. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was nothing good about it. Well, that's not true. There's some stuff where that was different from the original, but it's all CGI. There's a whole bunch of stuff of people in like fire suits, and
Hmm.
when they get around her that I liked, but it's not. it wasn't necessary. They changed the origins, they changed a lot of stuff, and it just because they're I think they were trying to pull a Pet Cemetery where they swap that it's not Gage, it's the older
Uh,
daughter, and it just didn't work with this. It Charlie is still a girl, but it's just they changed it enough. It just didn't work. It's just not a good movie. I sadly own it because I found it for like $5, so I bought it to put it in
I
the
might. I
Stephen
mean,
King
I'd
collection.
probably end up owning it because I own the Drew Barrymore Firestarter. So might as well own that one
I
too
don't
at
know.
some
It
point.
it might be better than the sequel.
I never saw the sequel either.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi channel movie, like a two-part movie that they did where uh Malcolm McDowell plays an Indian, plays a Native American.
I like the song Firestarter by Prodigy. I'm a fire starter. But it's a fire
That might
starter.
be in the movie. Who knows?
Probably. I don't know. I wouldn't be
So
surprised. Anyway, yeah, I think we covered everything we wanted to cover through and
yeah,
more.
yeah, and more.
Um,
We'll I'm curious to see where they take Saw 11 if it's takes place after, you
all
know,
10. Yeah.
yeah, so then it's still in between one and two, or this is going to be a completely different movie, or what? So it's I don't know.
I don't
Where do
know.
you? Maybe it'll be a story that takes place between three and four. Maybe they'll just keep doing that type of thing.
Maybe I don't know. I
Then they can
because
bring
I
back dead characters.
I haven't seen any of them, so I can't other than the first one. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see all the rest of them and everything. I'm excited to dive into this. But I like yeah, I have no idea. I am surprised we talked like this long because originally I think we were thinking it was only going to be an hour long
Well,
thing.
because we did not stay on target, so we talked
Well,
about
at
other
the
stuff.
end
Because
we
I can't talk a lot about this because then
well
it's going to
also
ruin stuff for you.
you had told me you wanted to talk about Scream 7 and you wanted to talk about the
Well, I
Crow
thought that'd be like
trailer.
a minute.
Yeah. That well it obviously that went off topic with a bunch of other shit.
So, but it's
And
fine. It's we got a
you
couple
can't talk
hours
horror
anyway.
without talking Blumhouse at some point because they're sort of the big things. And that was another thing. Another guy, the same guy was trying to tell me I can't ever say anything unkind about Jason Blum if I want to work in the film industry. And I'm like, what? Like, he's not gonna care. Like he makes his movies. Like he doesn't care what I think, you know? Even if I worked with him, he wouldn't care what my thoughts on the movies are. He would just want me to work on his movie at
So
that
then
point.
you should come on my video where we bash Marvel.
Uh, I don't know why I don't want to do that, but I just don't feel comfortable.
I
It's,
know exactly why you don't want to do it because you want to work for Marvel.
I want to work for Disney. Like I wanna make it Not Quite Human the remake, or
I don't
whatever
know
reboot.
why anybody would want to work for Disney.
I know. I'd want to because I think at some point things are going to shift, and change.
No, I think they're going to go out of business. I think their stuff is going to start going out of business. I mean, they'll just charge more and more for the theme park, so they'll have stuff like that. But I bet a lot of their stuff is going to go under.
Um,
So
yeah, we'll see. Because Bob Iger can't be around forever. He's already old, pushing old. So he was already supposed to be retired. So I mean, he can't be there forever as long as he doesn't have a successor who is like or whatever it's called.
well, all of his people on the
After.
board are his
Yeah.
friends. So
We'll talk about that silently. I just don't want to get into that shit because I don't. Bob is listening. He's out there.
oh jeez.
All right, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you actually stayed to the end like this, thank you. I mean, we really go off topic and we talk about like sexual molesters and other things. So
Oh
like it
jeez.
really did go a little bit darker, I guess, with our discussions and stuff. I mean, it is a horror film lovers thing, so I mean, I'm not that surprised. But um anyway, if you guys
The
like the
Jeepers Creepers movies, not child molesting.
right. That was dark and twisted and fucking Victor Salva. Fuck that guy. Like literally, I just hate that guy so much. I hope he never makes another movie, but he probably will. 'Cause what else does he do? What else did he do with his life? Um, but anywho, That's what's gonna get me in trouble with the Hollywood, I guess. I
I
don't.
don't know. He might work for Disney or Nickelodeon now. They seem to hire those types of people.
They're trying not to at Nickelodeon. They're
They're
really they.
trying not to.
Well, I'm saying like because they fired the dude, Dan Schneider, and I know Disney pre 2016 Disney, or whatever, before things got like this. I will say that I just I never mind. I just don't want to get into it because I'll get into it with you personally, privately, but I will not. I don't want to say these things.
No, it's the same stuff over and over again, so it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. So anyway,
There.
hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you guys think of Saw 1 and what you guys think of, are you gonna watch or are you gonna boycott Scream 7? I say don't boycott it. I mean, just watch it streaming on whatever,
Hey, people were talking about boycotting Scream 6, and the film I think made more money than Scream 5. So
yeah, that's so funny because I think like telling people to do something like that just makes people want to do it more. So maybe
I am right now boycotting Scream as I buy my tickets for it.
yeah. But it will be Scream 7. Thank God it's not gonna be called Scream. Like again, another one of these where it's called Scream, but this is Scream 5, motherfuckers. Scream. So people don't buy the wrong fucking 4K. I'm really still mad about that. I wanted my Scream. Now,
That's
um,
where they should have on that one put that like red Roman numeral in there, like wherever
right,
they could fit it,
something.
like they did with
Or
6.
or on eBay, tell me this is Scream 5, not just call it Scream, you know? Because I don't like I'm like, "Oh, that's a cool looking steelbook, and it looks like the first movie, you know? Like you can't tell me this doesn't look like the first fucking movie. This looks like it could
It
be
does. It's
for the
that's
first
very
thing."
annoying. It is very
Yeah.
annoying.
So I'm just like, oh, so I saw it and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Great steelbook. Can't wait to have it so I can watch the first movie over again. Mm, that just pissed me off.
Oopsie.
Where, it's not doing the thumbs down thing. Watch, it'll do thumbs up. Thumbs up, baby.
Oh, let's not get into that again.
That was crazy when
All
it'll
right,
go
you
thumbs
want to
up.
give are we doing a rating for this?
Oh
Or we're
yeah,
not
we
going to do a rating.
forgot. I forgot we do ratings. I always forget every single episode. Um, what are you gonna give it?
Um, so out of 5, I would give it a like a 4.5. Maybe
I,
closer to 4, but 4.5.
I give it two thumbs up. Here.
Well,
Yeah.
I give it 2 thumbs up too,
No.
but I
I'm
still give it a
trying to
4.
get it to do the stupid thing.
No, we need to go.
Why is
We
it
need to
not
go.
doing that? It did it before. That was so weird. I don't know. Anyway, I give it a 4, you know. I liked it a lot. A 4 out of 5. I liked it a lot. It was fun. It was
Okay.
enjoyable, and I don't know how the other movies are. If there will be ones that I like even more, or not. I guess I'll find out when we watch the next ones, but we'll see.
There you go.
All right, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And let us know what you guys think. And tell us, is Saul one of your favorite movies? If so, why? Until then,
There you go.
everybody, bye.
Bye.